We all know the story of the Good Samaritan. It's the simple, heartwarming tale our parents and Sunday school teachers told us about being a nice person and helping someone in need. But what if I told you that for its original audience 2,000 years ago, this story wasn't heartwarming at all? It was a deeply offensive, politically charged, and revolutionary parable designed to shatter their entire worldview. Today, we're uncovering the hidden meaning behind the parable of the Good Samaritan. Introduction. More than a moral tale, the parable of the Good Samaritan is arguably one of Jesus' most famous teachings. It has inspired laws, hospitals, and countless acts of charity. But its modern interpretation, as a gentle call to kindness, has sanded off its dangerously sharp edges. To its first-century Jewish listeners, this was a spiritual hand grenade. Its true power, its hidden meaning, is lost without understanding the cultural and religious context in which it was told. To decode it, we have to journey back to a dusty road in ancient Judea and listen with their ears. Part 1. The Lawyer's Trap, the question that sparked the story. The parable, found in the Gospel of Luke, chapter 10, doesn't begin in a vacuum. It begins with a confrontation. An expert in Jewish law, a lawyer, stands up to test Jesus. He asks a question that sounds sincere, but is actually a theological trap. Teacher, what must I do to inherit eternal life? Jesus, a master of turning questions back on the questioner, responds, what is written in the law? How do you read it? The lawyer answers perfectly, quoting the core of Jewish law from Deuteronomy and Leviticus. You shall love the Lord your God with all your heart, with all your soul, with all your strength, and with all your mind, and your neighbor as yourself. Jesus confirms his answer is correct, but the lawyer, wanting to justify himself, pushes further. He asks a seemingly simple follow-up question that reveals his true motive. And who is my neighbor? This is the question that unleashes the parable. In the first century, this was not an open-ended philosophical question. It was a legal and social debate. For many, a neighbor was another Jew, a member of your own tribe and faith. It was a question designed to draw a line, to define who was in and who was out, who was I obligated to love, and who could I rightfully ignore or even hate. The lawyer was asking for a loophole. Jesus is about to give him a bombshell instead. Part 2. The characters on the way of blood. Jesus begins his story. A man was going down from Jerusalem to Jericho when he was attacked by robbers. The road from Jerusalem to Jericho was infamous. It was a steep, 17-mile descent through a barren, rocky wilderness. Its winding turns and caves made it a perfect hunting ground for bandits. It was so dangerous, it was known as the Way of Blood. Jesus chose a setting that was terrifyingly real to his audience. The priest and the Levite. The first two people to come across the beaten and half-dead man are a priest and a Levite. For Jesus' listeners, these were the expected heroes. The priest was the highest religious authority, the embodiment of holiness. The Levite was his assistant in the temple, a pillar of the religious establishment. But shockingly, they both see the man and pass by on the other side. Why? The common explanation is ritual purity. The law stated that touching a dead body would make a priest or Levite ritually unclean, temporarily barring them from their sacred temple duties. If the man was dead, they would have to choose between their religious obligations and their human compassion. They chose the rules. They kept their hands clean, but their hearts cold. This was a stunning indictment of a religious system that could prioritize ritual over mercy. The Samaritan, the bombshell. Then, Jesus delivers the story's shocking twist. The third person to come along is a Samaritan. For a modern audience, the word Samaritan means a charitable person. For Jesus' first-century Jewish audience, it meant heretic, half-breed, traitor, and bitter enemy. The hatred between Jews and Samaritans was ancient and profound. Samaritans were descendants of Jews who had intermarried with foreign colonists centuries earlier. They accepted only the first 5 books of the Bible and had built a rival temple on Mount Gerizim, which they claimed was the true place of worship. Pious Jews would often take long, arduous detours just to avoid setting foot in the land of Samaria. To a Jewish listener in the 1st century, a Good Samaritan was a shocking, offensive oxymoron, like a righteous devil. They were the last person anyone would expect to be the hero of the story. Part 3. The radical definition of compassion. Jesus then details the Samaritan's actions, showing that his compassion was not a fleeting feeling, but a costly, inconvenient, and radical act of mercy. He took pity on him, an immediate emotional response that superseded any prejudice. He performed first aid, cleaning the man's wounds with oil and wine, common ancient antiseptics, and bandaging them. He put the man on his own donkey, meaning he himself had to walk. He took him to an inn and cared for him through the night. The next day, he paid the innkeeper out of his own pocket for the man's ongoing care. Finally, he made an open-ended promise. Look after him, and when I return, I will reimburse you for any extra expense you may have. This was an act of extraordinary, selfless generosity toward a man who was, by all societal standards, his enemy. Part 4. The question flipped. The parable's true meaning here. Jesus delivers the final, brilliant stroke that reveals the parable's hidden meaning. He doesn't answer the lawyer's question. Who is my neighbor? He flips the entire premise. He asks the lawyer, which of these 3 do you think was a neighbor to the man who fell into the hands of robbers? The shift is revolutionary. The lawyer's question was passive. Who qualifies to receive my love? Jesus' question is active. Who acted as a neighbor? The lawyer, defeated, cannot even bring himself to say the word Samaritan. He mutters, the one who had mercy on him. Jesus' final command is simple and devastating. Go and do likewise. The hidden meaning is now revealed. A neighbor is not defined by tribe, religion, geography, or social standing. The question, who is my neighbor, is the wrong question entirely. It's a question designed to limit our compassion. The right question is, am I being a neighbor? And you prove you are a neighbor, not by identifying who is worthy, but by actively showing mercy to anyone you find in need, regardless of who they are. Conclusion. The parable of the Good Samaritan is not a gentle suggestion to be kind. It is a radical, worldview-shattering command to demolish the boundaries we create between us and them. It teaches that true godliness is not found in religious purity or doctrinal correctness, but in active, costly compassion, especially for those we consider our enemies. The hidden meaning is that neighbor is not a category to be defined, but an action to be performed. In a world, as of August 2025, that is still deeply divided by politics, religion, and nationality, this 2,000-year-old story remains one of the most challenging and relevant teachings in human history. It asks us to look at the people on the other side of our personal Jericho road and answer not, who are they? But what does love require of me right now?